Welcome to VintageWeightsPGH. This is the MERACH R50 rower. There are a lot of different reviews out there already about this rower, and you can check them out and see how it compares to the Concept 2. Here's what it boils down to. This is about half the price of a Concept 2, and it's a good quality rower. There you go, I just saved you some time. So why should you watch this video? Well, because although you can see I have quite a lot of equipment in this home gym, and I have experience with various pieces of cardio equipment, this is my first rower. So I'm going to be walking through this, not just reviewing this as a piece of equipment, but reviewing it as, is this a piece of equipment you should buy for your home gym? And since this is VintageWeightsPGH, of course I'll give you a little history of the rowing machine as well. So let's get started. And actually, before we get started, you should know two things. First of all, MERACH sent this to me for this review. However, I will give you an honest review of this product. And if you choose to buy it, you can use Vintage25, Vintage25 to save 25% off whatever the current price is of this rower. It's usually around $500. The second thing you need to know is that it's usually not this crowded in my gym. I have a whole second rack set up in addition to my typical power rack, and that occurred because this rower is the second rower that I've received from MERACH. The first one wasn't working too well, which we'll get into in a minute. However, that meant that I had already moved on with my production schedule and started reviewing this RitFit rack. Sorry, MERACH, things are a little cluttered, but on the other hand, as they say, the show must go on. And in the end, it kind of speaks to the versatility of this rower in your home gym, that even with two power racks, I was able to find space to arrange this rower and use it consistently. I used it within this one, I used it within this one, I used it here where I'm sitting now. This thing is easy to move around. And the reason why is that it's two pieces and that they go together quite easily and that then they can be stored elsewhere in your gym. This arrived well packaged. I was excited to put it together and use it. Putting it together couldn't have been easier. Assembly involved like 8 screws that took about 12 to 15 minutes. Instructions were easy to interpret. Everything went smoothly. The operation, the first time I pulled on this handle, did not go that smoothly. As you heard in that short video clip, things seemed odd. This is my first use of a rower, so I wasn't 100% sure, like, is that typical? Do rowers just go clack, 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 clack? So I reached out to my friend Coach Carp. If you haven't watched Coach's videos, Coach Carp has a video about this rower. He also has videos about all kinds of stuff for the home gym community, so check him out. So I reached out to Coach Carp since I know that he's experienced with rowers and said, you know, is this typical? And he was like, no, Rob, rowers should go whoosh. And I said, Coach, this goes clack, clack, clack. And he was like, no, whoosh. I'm like, clack, clack, whoosh. So after this intelligent conversation, I took that as this being broken. So I reached out, and to MERACH's credit, they could not have been better handling the situation. And I don't think that is just because I'm a content creator. They genuinely gave it all they had to try to help me fix the rower that they sent. They sent me even like a personalized video showing how to take apart this whole fan mechanism and check inside, which was a little intimidating at first, like, wait, I have to disassemble, but it actually was pretty easy. You just unscrew all these points, and then this is just a little metal piece that wraps around. I mean, it's not that hard to take apart. And they kind of walked me through all of it, and when it got to a point where it was like, look, guys, I think this just isn't working, they apologized and they sent a new one out ASAP. They said this is the first time they've ever experienced this kind of problem with something interfering with the fan. So I feel pretty comfortable with everything involved because their customer service was wonderful. The second one I got, thankfully, goes whoosh. Thanks, Coach Carp, once again. Now, when it comes to actually using this thing, it was pretty easy to jump on here and use it. My children immediately gravitated towards it and just kind of started figuring out what they were doing. And that gave me a little hope that, well, if my kids can figure this out, I mean, I can figure this out. People have been using rowing machines for thousands of years. In ancient Greece, a Navy admiral actually created some of what we believe to be the first rowing machines, if you will, on the beaches of Greece to help train inexperienced rowers. Fast forward, and we get all the way up into 1872, where W.B. Curtis is the first person to patent a rower. And now I need my notes because I'm gonna butcher a lot of the pronunciation, most likely, of some of these names coming up. So bear with me, please, that in the 1900s, from 1900 to 1960, the Narragansett Company in Rhode Island, I'm sorry to my friend Panina who collects equipment from their company. I should have reached out ahead of time to figure out how to say that. In any case, they came up with a hydraulic rower. So that's pretty cool. That brings it into kind of the modern era. In the 1970s, the Jessing-Nielsen ergometer is patented in Norway, and that has a friction brake mechanism involved with it. And then we have the first air resistance rower. And you might be thinking, oh, this has to be the Concept 2, but it actually wasn't. In 1980, Repco, which is an Australian automotive company, and mostly known nowadays for automotive related things, patented their air resistance rower. Now fast forward just 1 year and we get to Peter and Richard Dressengacher.
Pete and Dick Dreisengacher.
And Jonathan Williams, who come up with their version, which is a patented rowing unit that is then named the Concept 2. So the Model A that you see here was the first Concept 2, and by 1986 they come out with the Model B, which has a digital monitor. And then there's the Model C, the Model D, and here we are in present day. There's several other rowers out there. Rogue has a rower, Bells of Steel has a rower. This is the first thing that I've seen from MERACH. They actually have a couple different products. They have bikes and various other rowers too. They have a water rower. So it's a pretty nice lineup from the company. I didn't know too much about the company until they contacted me. When it comes to this piece of equipment, the first thing you should know is that it is lengthy. It's 93 inches long. So you really need to take a tape measure and make sure this thing's gonna fit into your gym. Storing it, as I said at the front end of the video, is really easy because this comes apart into two pieces, and that means you can move it around. If you have a taller gym than me, I'm in a basement gym, you could store it upright. MERACH advises against that, but hey, take that cautionary warning for what you will. I've seen people storing it upright. That's on you. I'm not liable if you choose to do that. When it comes to moving it around your gym, the wheel, it's not even just that the wheels are small, but it's this covering on the wheels that I find scrapes my gym floor if I lift it up too high. So just be aware that you have to keep this thing like waist level when you have it split in apart and moving it around your gym. Now let's get into the 3 points of contact. So your butt is on this seat and this seat is comfortable. It stuck out to me the first time that I sat down that, hey, this is nice. I mean, the foam is a nice level of firmness, but then it's got kind of like a nice curvature to accept your frame. And then when I started moving on this thing, it also is shaped in a way that makes the movement comfortable. And this is a movement I found to be, you know, monotonous, just like any other cardio piece of equipment, so you want something that is comfortable. Secondly, you've got this foot plate. The foot plate is not so comfortable. So this really dug into my heels, the back part of this foot plate, and it's a hard plastic. Typically, I'm wearing these barefoot shoes in my gym, and the heel just, oh my gosh, this just dug right into this area of my foot, which was not pleasurable. So I highly advise that you wear something else. Wear sneakers, or I have these lifting shoes that I started wearing because it was convenient while using the rower in my gym. So whether you're wearing just a pair of Nikes or lifting shoes, wear something that has a higher back. That's something they could address in the future, especially since this is just a bracket. Like, I think I can even pull this thing out of here if I really wanted to. Yeah. There you go. So this is just, you know, this plastic piece. MERACH could redesign this, and then they wouldn't have to redesign their whole rower. It'd just be this one piece. And then this back end here that digs into your ankle might be addressed. As far as the foot plate being sturdy, that wasn't an issue. This was very sturdy, lots of adjustment points, so no issues there. The highlight of the foot plate, though, is this Velcro strap. It seems simple enough, it's just a Velcro strap, but I found it to be really good quality, and the thickness of it, it's about 1.5 inches thick, really held my foot in place. So for all that I just said about it digging into my ankle, the front end of my foot felt really good, and I like this a lot. This is one of my favorite things on a rower, actually, is how this holds your foot in place. Next up would be the handle. I think this is an important part to really address in terms of the rower because you're going to be holding on to this thing the entire time you're using it. So this is not really a rubber material in terms of like being squishy. It's not foam. I mean, I guess this is rubber, but this end cap is definitely a firm type of material, type of rubber that's going to hold up, I would say, over time. And it has a little bit of texture to it so that you can really grip it and hold on to it, and that's nice. These holes in the middle, I started using every once in a while with something that I found, being a first-time rower, to be surprising, which is going to make me sound like an idiot, but I just didn't really think through that when you're rowing, unlike other things like running or riding on a bike, like I had a Peloton for years, this involves two hands almost at all times. So if you want to, whatever, scratch your head or touch something on your phone to adjust something, you're getting all wonky here. So that's why I like these holes in the middle, because occasionally, if I really had to, I would do a weird little maneuver where I'd kind of grab this sucker here and just keep on going while I did something I need to do. I don't know if that's a widely accepted practice in rowing, but from the rookie perspective, that's something that I kind of like these holes for, was just one hand on this sucker if I had to scratch my head or touch something on the monitor. Now, when it comes to the chain here, we're going from points of contact to actual operating and the functional parts of this rower. The chain moves really smoothly. There's some guards on either side, so if you happen to get off, you're going to hit into this. Now, with that said, I've seen in other reviews, like the Kurt Locker has a great review where he talks about this compared to the Concept 2, that the Concept 2 has something a little more substantial. But in my use of this, even being a first-time rower, I rarely really grinded on this thing. So in a home gym use, I think this will be fine. There's a bracket to then put the handle back into. This gets knocked out of here quite often. My kids are constantly knocking this out of here when they're walking around the gym, and so am I. I'm not saying they have to change this bracket. It's more just of a warning that you want to be careful not to go like this, because that happens. Up here, the fan has 10 points of adjustment in terms of resistance, so you go from the lowest to the highest. And then the nice thing is, from training to training session, I would forget that I left the fan on a certain resistance, but it shows you on the monitor that, hey, you're still set at 4, for example. So I like that the resistance is shown on the monitor. There are 32 fan blades in here that go whoosh. And then this whole housing is a hard plastic. At first I was a little bit concerned that, oh man, this seems like the type of hard plastic that, like, I mean, I have 4 kids. I'm used to plastic products and toys and things getting broken. And I thought, geez, one bad hit and this thing's gonna crack in half. Well, I've been wheeling this all over my gym. I've been just bear hugging it and picking it up and walking it over to different areas of the gym to get around everything else that's in here right now. And I have smacked this thing off of these uprights. I don't even know how many times. And I don't have any cracks. I don't have any damage, anything. I didn't mean to. It wasn't like I was trying to break this thing. But on the other hand, things have held up well. And it's been about a month of rolling this around everywhere. When it comes to this frame, everything's held up well. It's about 73 pounds total. Now, like anything else, when you're picking this up from the wheels, it's not gonna weigh as much. That's total if you pick this whole stinking thing up. So it weighs less when you're moving this front end around, and then the back end piece is substantially lighter. But in terms of usage, the frame is substantial enough to make me feel safe. Coach Carp in his review pointed out that this actually weighs more than the Concept 2. Another Coach Carp genius move is that things like the drink spotter will stick to it. And then the wheels I spoke about before, but the other thing to just be aware of is that when you separate this thing and you're moving it around, I would advise, and they advise in the manual, to grab it by these Velcro straps. That way you're not going to risk breaking this foot plate or snapping this foot plate at all. Not that I think you would, but just grab it by the straps. The seat slides on this aluminum piece here, and it's been a smooth motion in terms of the movement of the seat. I haven't really had an issue on that front. The bottom portion has the chain exposed, which really I haven't felt threatened with that. The max load is 350 pounds. I'm about 200 pounds and never really had an issue in terms of this moving around or anything while I was using it. And I tried a lot of different programs, and I'll get to that with the monitor and the app. First, let's talk about the monitor. So this, even the first impression of this came off to me as a weak point of this system, that I found this really difficult to figure out. The directions in here, oh my gosh, were really tough to sort through in terms of how to use this monitor. That first I pressed this, and then it just beeped at me. Now I press this. Here's my very easy breakdown. There are 3 buttons: set, mode, and reset. Think about set and mode in a different way than they're named. Think about set as a tab key on a normal computer keyboard. Think about mode as your return or your enter key. So if you think through it that way, you've got 3 basic settings on here. You've got manual, interval, and target. So think of set as tab, that like on a computer, you're gonna hit tab and go through a couple different selections. So click set to get through what you want. And then, oh, this is what I want target. Well then hit mode, that's like enter or return. Then within target, you have some selections. So go back to set and click through. Okay, which do you want? Do you want a timed target? Do you want this target? Do you want whatever, a distance? And then, oh, that's the one I want, hit mode, that's return. So if you just think of those 2 buttons in that way, you can pretty much feel your way through this rather than trying to interpret what's in the manual. With that said, the app is the opposite. The app could not have been easier. I liked it a lot. As I said before in this video, I used a Peloton for years, and the app reminded me a lot of some of the programs in the Peloton. So there's different things you can do. You can go on like a scenic ride, a scenic row, I guess you would say. You can do a competitive type thing where you're rowing in a race against actual other users that are online rowing at that time. There are different coached lessons, and that really reminded me of Peloton. One compliment I would make to the MERACH videos and coaches is that there's a lot less like, you know, spirit animal, your sweat is your anxiety leaving you type comments. That always annoyed me with Peloton. I just wanted to get my training in. I didn't want to hear about my spirit and what I was feeling at that time. MERACH doesn't get into that. The MERACH instructors are just telling you, okay, we're rowing like this, and set your fin to this, and here we go.
Brilliant stuff. This is just easy effort, guys.
One thing with the coached sessions that I would advise is that it's a full training session. So if you pick a 30-minute training session, for example, you're gonna have like, I don't know, a 2.5 to 3 minute warm up. And then at the end, you'll have like a 5-minute cool down. I tended to skip over these, and the nice thing in the app is that you can skip the warm-up, skip the cool-down, because it really wasn't the only thing I was doing that day a lot of days. A lot of times I was using this to warm up before I jumped into my training for the day, or if this was the central piece of my training, it was like a cardio day for me, I was still gonna then go and do maybe some grip strength afterwards and do some other things that I like to do in the gym afterwards. I didn't really need to sit here and cool down. So just be advised, there is a skip button. You don't have to sit there and stare at a warm-up or let this thing play through a cool down. The app has a Pro insignia, so there's a 180-day trial that comes with this. I haven't experienced that yet when it comes to the app. Everything that I click on in the app is available. One thing I would advise is to make sure you're clicking on things for the rower. Otherwise, it'll start telling you that you're not connected, and that's because you're clicking on something for one of their other products. The connection in terms of Bluetooth is super simple. It was very easy with the app, and it connected every single time, no problem. As far as this actual monitor's little device resting nook, this little piece right here, I didn't have a problem with the case that I have on my phone, but I've heard people say that if you have a bigger case or something like that, sometimes it won't sit nicely in here. So that might be something for MERACH to look at. Overall, I figured out how to use this rower pretty easily. I watched some different videos on YouTube with some advice on rowing, and I'll drop some of those links in the description of this video. But here's my very quick advice if you're a rookie rower like me. Legs, arms, arms, legs. Meaning that you're gonna get your chest up, you're gonna push with your legs, then pull with your arms, come back with your arms, and then with your legs. The only other little thing that I would give advice to a rookie rower is that I read that you're supposed to start pulling with your arms when you get to about your knees, but that was hard to gauge visually. So something that happens right about then for me with this rower is that the chain catches right about then. So as you're coming back, when you feel the chain catch, that's when you should pull with your arms. That really helped me to get in a good rhythm, and finding that rhythm, getting into just kind of that flow of things, really made this an enjoyable piece of equipment to use. So let's now get into how much I liked using this versus the Peloton that I've had, or I even use a heavy bag for cardio when it's the winter time, versus just running outside, because that's a lot cheaper than dropping 500 bucks on a rower. So the monitor and the app track some of the main points that other equipment that I've used would track. So, you know, you're keeping track of how many of these you cycle through, and you're keeping track of your time, you're keeping track of your distance. Those are all kind of things that I just pick up on, and I think, okay, I rode 5 miles today, or oh, today I want to row for 3 miles, or today I want to row for 20 minutes, or whatever it is, or today I want to see if I can burn 200 calories. Those are all things that with the Peloton I used to do a lot of times, or on treadmills when I was in commercial gyms and things I used to think through a lot of times. So it's nice to have all of that with this. The actual function of it, it is two-handed, and that's something to think about, that, you know, if you're one of those YouTube type of people or podcast people that you're constantly, you know, cycling through different things while you're running or while you're on a bike, you're freehanding it while you're on a bike and flipping to a new YouTube video to put on while you're riding, that's going to be annoying with a rower. On the other hand, the benefit of the rower that I really love is that it's not just lower body. You're getting that upper body movement as well. And I could really, my lats, I could really feel that after a while, that it was more of like a bodybuilding pump, you know? It was like doing that 100 low weight reps at the end of my training. So that I liked. As far as the intensity of the rower compared to cycling or running, I found the rower to be a little less than running. So even with some of the HIIT programs that I tried, and even with putting myself through my own HIIT program and just going as fast as I could on this thing for 2 minutes, taking 30 seconds off, that kind of thing, a Tabata, I really wasn't as sweaty, I really wasn't as worn out as if I went for a run for 30 minutes. So if you're thinking about a rower versus a treadmill, you might want to keep that in mind. I did find this to be on par with cycling, and in terms of intensity, sometimes even more intense than cycling. Because there's resistance felt with the lower body and the upper body with a rower, I found that to be more intense than the Peloton that I used to use. That was really just lower body. I mean, yeah, there's the goofy little like dumbbell things you can do with the Peloton, but I'm just saying, this is an actual resistance that you're pulling while you're pushing with your legs, and that was a more intense workout. That's one of the big reasons I'm going to hang on to this thing, and I'm going to use this in my gym, is that I really like the upper body, lower body combo that this provides with cardio. I think this is a good piece of equipment that is a great price for your home gym. It's around $500, and you can save another 25% with Vintage25. The link is in the description of this video. When you rack and stack this price for this piece of equipment against some other cardio options for your gym, I think you'll find that it's very competitive. This is often called a budget version of the Concept 2. I would actually compliment this and say it's a little better than what I normally call budget. There's some other rowers out there with like nylon straps instead of chains that are like $100 on Amazon. You're gonna get what you pay for. But for just a little bit more money, I would say this is like a mid-range, not a budget type of piece of equipment. That this is better quality. This is gonna last several years and has a lot of features that are quite nice. There are some limits to it. I mean, you only have 2 apps that are compatible with this versus like the 40 plus apps that are compatible with Concept 2. But I find that the MERACH app is really easy to use and has a lot of really good features within it that I enjoy and I plan to continue using. And even if I set aside that app, once I got used to this monitor and I got used to using the buttons, this was easy enough to use. You just really need some Bluetooth earbuds, I should mention, because this is louder than, say, a Peloton. So keep that in mind. Get your Bluetooth headphones ready while you're using the rower. Whether you choose to buy a MERACH R50 rower or some other product from MERACH, you can shop in the description through my link to help out the channel. And whether you choose to buy anything or not, I really appreciate you watching the channel. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that happy stuff. It really helps out VintageWeightsPGH. My name is Rob. This is my first rower, and I hope this video has helped you out. Thanks for watching.